People with autism go through a time of regression to being able to have eye contact to zero eye contact. And my mom knew there was something drastically different between me and my older brother Steve and Chuck. She immediately took me to pediatricians at 18 months. Pediatrician said, men are like fine wine. You got to give them a little time. Women are like flowers. They blossom quickly. And my mom knew that time was the essence. So she immediately got me an intense speech therapy. And I'd be in intense speech therapy all the way from 2 to age 16. My speech was so delayed that when I was 7 years old, my brother Chuck would introduce me to people saying, you need to meet my brother Ron. I think he's from Norway. He'd have me talk. No one knew what I was saying. So I became an expert on Norwegian languages. When I was 7 years old, I entered kindergarten. No one was able to understand me. My behavioral issues and meltdowns made the school specialists want to label me emotionally impaired. And my mom said, it's not emotional, it's neurological. And if you can't tell me what's going on in my son's head, I'll come back to you in the fall and tell you exactly what it is. Delgado said, your son has autism. And when I was diagnosed in 1982, only 1 in 10,000 children were diagnosed with autism. The latest statistic is 1 in every 59. So it's gone up drastically. And my mom went back to the school specialist and said, my son has autism. And they said, if your son has autism, he'll never be able to read beyond the 7th grade level, never attend college, never have meaningful relationships, and he'll never excel in sports. And my mom was determined to prove the experts wrong. She quit her job as a full-time art teacher and became a full-time Braun teacher. And with her working with me, I was able to graduate from Oral Roberts University with degrees in theology and psychology and a 3.9 grade point average. I went on to get my Master of Divinity from Oral Roberts University with a perfect 4.0 grade point average. I've translated 2/3 of the New Testament from Greek into English and have over 10,000 Bible verses memorized word perfect. And then December 7th, 6 years ago, I got married to my wife, Kristen. I like to share, I got married on the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, and having autism, I came in like a kamikaze. Whirlwind of fire. The in-laws not know what to expect. And on March 20th, at 3:13 a.m., Michaela Marie was born. And then, when I came back from the hospital, my first copy of my first nationally published book, Parents Guide to Autism, came out. And none of this would have been possible without my mom's love and concern for me, professionals working with me, and she believed in autism refined, not cured. First I'm going to talk about autism unrefined. Autism isn't a disease. I can't cough on you and you get the autism flu so you get a day off work. But autism can be refined. I'm going to first talk about autism unrefined. Autism unrefined looks like this. You're walking on the hot black pavement. You're going to the beach. I know what the weather's out there right now, but work with me. And as you're walking in your bare feet, all of a sudden you feel something sharp. You pick it up, it's a piece of glass. Someone was having Miller time in a Miller glass and threw it on the ground. Now you're having tetanus shot time. Autism unrefined for me was jagged. It was zero ability to filter what I'd say. What came into my mouth, much like Trump, I'd spew it out right away. Autism unrefined for me was zero ability to control my emotions. Most people count down before they blast off. I was like the Challenger in 1986. I blast off and explode when I lose my emotions, and I was unable to control my emotions. My favorite autism unrefined moment occurred in 1996. I was in college and I was working at across the street from Oakland University in a car wash. And as I drove to work that day, they announced on 97 won the ticket. Today, Wayne Fontes was fired. He had one of the best running backs all time in Barry Sanders, a great quarterback in Scott Mitchell, and a wide receiver who was really good too in Herman Moore. And they didn't make the playoffs with the #1 offense. So I'm drying cars up. You should show up at the car wash with Wayne Fontes himself, sporting a Cuban cigar, driving a white Jaguar. And as I'm drying off his car, I notice there's a line of young adults all with pen and paper to get his autograph. I go back and I come back, I kid you not, when I hand him paperwork, it looked like this. I thought he was coaching me. Is that what I think it is, son? I said, yes, Wayne Fonts, that's a job application. They announced today on 97.1 the ticket, you were fired. And if you get a job working at this car wash, you're going to learn teamwork and you're going to learn defense. You see that fly there? You can get rid of it. That's what you got to do with the teams you go against. And if you Google his name, it says he was the most outspoken line coach of all time. For once, Wayne Fonts was speechless. He drove away without saying a word. Now I'm going to talk about Autism Refined. You're off that hot black pavement. You're walking along Lake Michigan. You're walking along the ocean. You got that breeze. It feels good. And all of a sudden, you feel something. It feels good. You do it again. You kind of move in this groove and you pick it up. It's a stone. Only it's been refined by something greater in itself. It's been refined by the grace of God. It's been refined by ABA therapy. It's been refined by speech therapy, occupational therapy, and learning social skills. Now that piece of glass that looks like this, you don't throw it out so no one steps on it and gets hurt. Put it on the neck is jewelry. You put it on a wall is art. And my mom was determined to take those gifts, those talents in me, and transform them for God's glory, and also to help me be gainfully employed. In the United States right now, only 5% of people with autism are gainfully employed as I am today. And my mom was inspired by Proverbs 22:29. Do you see a man skilled in his labor? He was served before kings. He would not serve before obscure men. And she knew if she could develop those gifts, those talents, I'd be able to do great things like write books and be able to speak around the world and be able to be successful. But without those skills, I wouldn't be able to. When she put me in the special education department when I was in kindergarten, she noticed something, that they had a two-teacher rule. You had one teacher at the front, Kate, who tried to escape through the front door, and one teacher at the back, in case you tried to escape through the back door. And she said to the education department, you are not educating these kids, you're babysitting. And if my son's in this classroom, the best he's ever going to be is bagging groceries. The best he's ever going to be is a bellboy holding doors open. The best he's ever going to be is washing dishes. But my son has talents, he has gifts, he may process information different, but we're going to find out how he learns, and we're going to work in those areas and help him develop those gifts so he serve before kings, not obscure men. And she started working with me. I still have my autistic moments. First time I ever asked a girl out on a date, I was a freshman in high school, she was a sophomore, and right when I was about to ask, would you like to go out to coffee, she said this, how come you sound like a transformer? There's no inflection in your voice. I thought I'd be cute, so I said I'm more that meets the eyes. I still didn't get a date with her. But my mom started working with me. She saw that I process information differently. With autism, it's not just one disability, it's usually multiple disabilities. Not only did I have autism, but whenever I'd write my name, I'd write it backwards. So I had dyslexia also. I also have dysgraphia, bad handwriting, so I can pass for any prescription writer and doctor in Ann Arbor. Well, my mom noticed I had great memory ability, and as I mentioned before, she quit her job as an art teacher, became a full-time drawing teacher. She started when I was age 5, having me draw, because she knew I was a visual learner. Temple Grandin, most famous person in the world, says that 90% of all people with autism are visual learners. She'd have me tell her a story. I'd tell her the story, she'd write it down, and then she'd have me rewrite the story. And all these I made between the age of 5 and 6. Within 2 years of her working with me using visual learning, I went to having dyslexia to no dyslexia, because I was learning where my mind was able to process information in a better, effective way that I was able to learn. And my mom knew that if she could take my special interests and get into my world, she could get me out to her world. And with autism, usually we have unusual special interests. Parts of trains rather than the whole train. Trains. Kids with autism a lot of times love trains. When I was growing up in the 80s, everyone had He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. G.I. Joe. And there was me carrying around a love-worn prairie dog named Prairie Pup. Prairie Pup at one time looked like a real prairie dog. He had a full head of hair. If anyone wants to get into his ministry, give him a little Rogaine. Don't give him Viagra, because at his age he probably had a heart attack and died. And my mom would have girls make outfits with him, so he became a popular celebrity and mascot in the school. One girl made him a jean jacket, one made him a cowboy outfit, one made him an astronaut outfit, one made him a dress, but I'd have to find out from Trump if he could now ever be in the military after he wore it. And when I was in 4th grade, my teacher, Miss Melanie, saw my talent for drawing and writing, and she had us enter the Detroit Edison poster contest for all of Oakland County. And my poster got 1st place. And the grand prize, there's Isaiah Thomas, there's me, and there's Prairie Pup. I got to meet Isaiah Thomas. And in the 80s, if anyone remembers, the commercial for Detroit Edison was "Look up, but I don't see anything." Good. And what the commercial is saying is that there's no power lines. So what my poster showed is it showed a bunch of prairie dogs, squirrels, and animals working on building a fort near an electrical wire, and one's about to hit it with a hammer and says, "Look up, you don't want to become a furry fried friend." And it's one for all of Oakland County. And my favorite unusual special interest is Dylan. His special interest was furnaces. His dad, for Halloween, made him a furnace outfit. And what he didn't realize when he made the furnace outfit for him is that during the next 3 years, wherever Dylan went, there was Dylan in his furnace outfit. And he shares this, Derek, his dad. "I tried to change his special interests, I really did. The baseball, man sport. I gave him books on baseball, and all he'd do is quote the location the players were born and the years. You can't change the special interest." Also with autism, a lot of times, it's not only learning disabilities, but there's behavioral issues and sensory issues. A lot of kids with autism will have extreme sensitivity to maybe bleach, or extreme sensitivity to loud noises. Popping of balloons was the kryptonite for Temple Grandin. And when I was in 3rd grade, I had my favorite meltdown that I like to share. It was Halloween time, so it was around this time of year. My mom took me to a Cub Scout event where they were having a clown. The clown had the red nose, he had the red hair, he had the white makeup, and he had a lamb puppet on his hand also. And he was dressed much like Homie the Clown. And my mom thought with 200 people, it'd be better for me to be seated right close to the clown so I'd be able to see the full act. Not realizing I'd become part of that act in a few minutes. So I'm sitting here, I have a hat on, there's a kid here. Clown knew nothing about autism. He thought it'd be funny to take the hat off my head, put it on this kid's head, and put it back on my head. Takes the lamb puppet, gets it off my head, he's putting it back on my head, and with one swoop, I had that lamb puppet, and I proceeded to beat the living snot out of the clown in front of 200 people. He looked something like this, like Krusty the Clown getting hit by a Mack truck. I went flying out there. I never became a Cub Scout. I never became part of the wolf pack. I flew like an eagle, but they didn't give me the Eagle Merit badge. They should have came up with a new badge, the Honey Badger, because the Honey Badger doesn't give them. So I run out of there. The next day, people in charge of the Cub Scouts come to my parents and said, if you do that to a clown, there's no telling what he could do to one of our children. We never want this guy to come back to our Cub Scouts. So I got kicked out of Cub Scouts. Something even more worse happened when I began 8th grade, Prairie Pup became the first prairie dog to be officially expelled from the Rochester Hills school system. They said at age 15, I was too old to be carrying a love-worn prairie dog. What I like to share is, thank God my special interest wasn't a honey badger. Because a honey badger doesn't give up. They wouldn't have been able to expel this wild beast from the school system. And I got my first honey badger on my honeymoon. That one, if you press its paw, every F-bomb in the book comes out. I don't bring him because I don't want you to think I'm having a live demonstration. I went on Amazon, got this honey badger that is more tame. There's two main views of autism. You got Asperger's, which is high functioning. It's a person who can't filter what they say, much like Forrest Gump. He'll sit on a park bench and in 2 hours and 45 minutes tell his whole life, tell you about how his girlfriend's dying of AIDS, how he had a child with her, and all the different things that happened. Zero ability to filter. My favorite autism story like that is there's a guy, Jess, who's published 2 books with Penguin House, and his dad said to him, you need a job where you'll never get fired for saying something inappropriate, never say something where they want to bring sexual harassment charges against you for what you say. So he said, I outsmarted my dad. I got a job at a funeral home, all the clients are dead. Then you got classic autism, a man who's self-absorbed in their own world. Autism comes from the Greek word autonomous, which in Greek means self. It's a person who's self-absorbed. With Rain Man, you drop 2 picks down and it'll instantly tell you there's 146. And then when you look in the box, there's 4 in the box and make 150. And those are the 2 main views of autism. My experience with autism wasn't like Forrest Gump, it wasn't like Rain Man, it was more like Sally the Seal. And the way the story of Sally the Seal goes is this: in 1989, Exxon Valdez had an oil spill. It covered all Prince William Sound in Alaska. They spent $2 billion to clean up the 11 million gallons of crude oil all over the environment. But when they got done, they realized they forgot one key ingredient: the wildlife that was victimized by the oil. And they didn't want to spend $2 billion more cleaning up the wildlife in the environment they cleaned up, so they decided to choose one lucky seal and spend $10,000 and rehabilitate her to go back in the sea. They started inviting famous dignitaries. Arnold Schwarzenegger said, Sally the Seal will be back. Michael Jackson said, I'd really like Sally to come to my Netherlands ranch to be with the llamas, but we know what he was up to. Sally wasn't going there. So the big day finally came. They made a water slide for Sally to go back in the sea. They had all kinds of famous dignitaries, as I mentioned, and cameras are all on her. She was flying down the slide into the deep sea, and out of nowhere came a killer whale. Sally the Seal became Sally the Meal. So my experience with autism was more like Sally the Meal. I got severely bullied from 6th grade to 8th grade, and my freshman year of high school, a guy stole a Tarantula, put it in a Ziploc bag, and someone dared me to take a shot put and brew up some Tarantula stew. When I brewed up this Tarantula stew, I got a black eye. And boys had that sonar ability to focus in on me having autism and having unusual behavior. Because a boy looks for a response, and with meltdowns I had the main response. So these killer whales of the sea, or boys, were able to pick me out in a crowd. But everything changed in my life in 1995, 1994, beginning my junior year of high school. My life was on the right track. I gave my life to Jesus Christ, made him my Savior and Lord, and put him in control of my whole life. In my junior year of high school, my relay team finished 12th in the state of Michigan for the 3200 relay at state finals. And on the way back, Coach Bud said, next year we'll be the fastest relay team in the state of Michigan, but we won't have Ron on our relay because he'll be past the age limit. You see, due to autism, I had to repeat kindergarten, what made me my senior year of high school, 19 turning 20. So I was 3 months past the age limit to compete on the track team. And right when Coach Bud said, next year Ron won't be on the track team, I heard the Holy Spirit speak to my heart and said, I'll provide a way for you to run. Trust in me. And I said to Coach Bud, God's going to provide a way for me to run on the track team next year. And he said, in the last 20 years, no one has been able to compete past the age limit in the state of Michigan. And my mom started calling lawyers. She called first Bernstein. Bernstein said, we can't see this case. She called Mike, said, this case isn't going to be free. She called Mike, and he said, this case, I don't think I can win this case. She called Lee, and Lee said, I don't think this is going to be free. She called Feiger. Feiger said, I'm on the highway having a few drinks. When I get back from the bar, I'll give you a call back, and he never called us back. But in all truth, every lawyer she contacted said the case would cost over $40,000 more than we could afford. And my parents said to me, we just have to trust God. He's been in this from the beginning. He's going to see it through the end, being confident in this, that he began a good work and will carry it on to completion until the day of the Lord Jesus Christ, Philippians 1:6. So we put it into God's hand, and I came back from a 5-mile run right near the beginning of the season, track season, and there on the front page of the Detroit News was a young man named Craig Standing. He was born May 1975, same year, same month to me. He ran track and cross country, same sports I ran, and he had a learning disability, but not autism. And the MHSA told his family they wouldn't let him be able to compete on the track team, just like me. So my mom called his family, we got together. The first words out of Stanley's mouth were, it'll be over $40,000 for this case, which neither of our families could afford. And I said, God's going to provide a way for me and Craig to compete on the track team. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. So my mom said, let's do one more article in the Detroit Free Press saying now there are 2 young men in the state of Michigan whose rights are being violated by MHSA. That same week, that on the Wednesday that the article came out, that Sunday I was getting water baptized to show my commitment to Christ. I was water baptized as an infant in the Presbyterian Church, and I wanted to show my new commitment to Christ. And the pastor who baptized me knew nothing about my running, nothing about my life. He just knew my brother Chuck. And when I came out of the water, he looked at me and kind of gave me a look, and he said, when you came out of that water, I saw something that I haven't seen before when I baptized him. I saw the words Joel 2:25, which says, I will repay the years of the locust eaten, the great locust, the young locust, the other locust, great army I sent among you. He said, there's something in your life that ate away like locusts. Could have been a situation, it could have been a disability or something else. I don't know what it was. God said, today your blessing's going to begin, and God's going to do something amazing in your life, and it's going to be your message that you speak. I get home after being water baptized, and there is the answer machine, and it's blinking red. And I press the button, right time it comes up on the answer machine at 9 a.m., the time I was water baptized. And it begins like this. Hi, my name is Rick Landel. I'm a lawyer out of Ann Arbor, and I just finished my PhD at Boston College. I have my undergrad in law from the University of Michigan, and I want to take your case pro bono. All I need is your autograph. See, when God has an assignment, he has people armed and dangerous with degrees from Michigan and PhDs. So I went out there, I signed on with him, and we won the case. I got to run on the track team. I ran the second fastest time in the state of Michigan for a 3200 relay, and I got full ride to college for track and cross country. Then I went on, after my first year running, to get almost full ride for academics and go on to Oral Roberts. The story doesn't end there. When I mentioned earlier, when I wrote the book, A Parent's Guide to Autism, I interviewed 40 of the top experts in the world in the autism community. And one of the people I interviewed was Gary Marison, who's an attorney. He's the best known attorney in the autism community. He's a board member of Autism Speaks. And today, if you look online, Google autism, first thing that comes up is ABA therapy. Well, there would be no international ABA therapy. Every center that we have today wasn't for Gary Marison. In 1996, insurance companies wouldn't fund ABA therapy, and it was a new type of therapy. Well, he's a honey badger. He took them all on in federal court and went case after case after case, and made it that now everywhere you go, every city in the United States, there's an ABA program, and it wouldn't have been possible without Gary Marison. When I interviewed him, he said this: Ron, I'm going to tell you the ending of your story. And it's a really good story, and it's going to be the ending of your presentation. So I was thinking, how is he going to tell me the ending of my book? So you're going to end your book by interviewing Anthony Sturgill, and that's how I end all these speeches telling the story of Anthony Sturgill. You're going to share his story, and it's going to be very meaningful to you. This is the story of Anthony. Anthony's dad, Ray, who I interviewed, him and his wife were unable to have children. They were very strong, evangelical Christians. They believed that with God, anything is possible. And they decide, we're going to adopt a child with special needs and show that in a loving, caring environment, anything is possible. So they go to a foster home, and knowing nothing about autism, they see little Anthony sitting in a couch going like this. And that's stemming or repetitive behavior. Since they didn't know anything about autism, this is back before there was a lot known about autism, they took it, interpreted it, Anthony wanted them to sit by him. They sit by Anthony, they meet with him a few days, and they said, we're going to adopt Anthony. The lady in charge of the foster home gives him kind of a weird look. He's autistic. His IQ is only 50. The average IQ is 100. He's got a lot of digestive issues, all kinds of issues. Are you sure you can handle this? He's already been in 7 foster homes and no one could handle him. That's why he's back here. And they said, we know God's called us to take him. We're going to take him. And Anthony's dad, Ray, is a huge football fan, huge sports fan. He decided, I'm going to get Anthony involved in sports and try and get him to come out of his shell and that autistic kind of self-isolation. Try soccer. All the kids are out there having fun, running around. There's Anthony with his head down, walking in a circle. Tries baseball. Guy hits a line dry, hits him in the head, and he just keeps walking, totally oblivious. When Anthony is 13 years old, his dad, being a huge Rutgers fan, takes him to a football game, and it's LSU taking on Rutgers. LSU is undefeated at the time. Rutgers is just an average team. But they find themselves in a tie game with 0 time left on the clock, and Jeremy Lin goes up for Rutgers. Does a repetitive behavior. Looks up, points up, does 3 steps forward, 1 step back, kicks, right through the upright. Rutgers wins. LSU won't be able to compete to be a national championship. All the way home, all little Anthony can say is, I want to be a football player. I want to be a football player. I want to be a football player. His dad said to him, you don't like physical contact, and as a place kicker, there could be a time where you get tackled. But he was undeterred. Dad gets him in football programs. He can't reach the upright, but from 15 feet. All other kids can do it from 20 feet. His dad has it on him. Do I have him kick from 15 feet and make all of them, or from 20 feet and miss all of them? He has him kick from 20 feet, and he misses them. But Anthony's undeterred. He keeps working at it. 3 steps forward, 1 step back, and with autism, he becomes an expert on the repetitive behavior. His junior year of high school, 5 games in the season, he makes the football team. They have a losing record. Now, North Shores High School, where he went, has over a 20-year losing streak. His senior year, 5 games in the season, they again have a losing record. Anthony made the team 5 games in and made a 1 game-winning field goal and was excited about it. Now, he's entering his 2nd senior year, and with autism in New Jersey, you're given 1 more year to compete. Or 1 more year, if you have autism, to be able to attend school. But the New Jersey High School Athletic Association says to his dad, Ray, we will not let Anthony compete on the football team. He's past the age limit, and this would be his 2nd senior year. His dad finds out about Gary Marison, gives Gary Marison a call. Gary Marison says, I'll look into it and see if I can take this case. He goes on the law books, then he finds it. Sanderson versus the MHSAA, my case. And he says, I'll take this, I know I can win the case. So he takes him on and wins the case. But then God's working in the background. Brings a great running back in the neighborhood. Brings a great wide receiver in the neighborhood. He brings a great defense. Thank God he didn't bring Wayne Fonts in the neighborhood, or this wouldn't be a good ending. And Anthony finds himself in a state finals using his repetitive behavior. 3 steps forward, 1 step back, kicks. And he kicks 2 field goals, and they win a state championship. And he goes on to go to community college and be able to have a life like everyone else, even though at one time they said his IQ is less than that of the average person. And on May 13th, I was in Austin, Texas, and I'm going to be there again this weekend, and they, Fierce Love and Art, I'm in a nationally documented film that they're still working on getting in Netflix, and I'll be going again to Austin, Texas. Dr. Lawrence A. Becker made the film, and it's about 8 young people who are on the autism spectrum. They have amazing gifts. My gift, he said, is a gift of telling stories, and also art, how my mom used art. He shares my whole story of my mom using art to help me learn. And there's different views of autism, but we see there's many great talents. First one, how society sees us, MC squared. They see us as 9-signers, super smart. And what we know about autism is about 15% of people on autism have a prodigy type gift, maybe able to memorize 10,000 scriptures. Most common is calendar counting, where you give someone a date and they'll tell you exact day of the week it was, and can go back even 40, 50 years. How our neurotypical friends see us, or friends. Big Bang, kind of Shelton Laws is saying something inappropriate or something that doesn't necessarily make sense. How our parents see us. Remember, everyone's playing soccer, there's little Anthony all by himself, isolated, kind of off by ourselves. How the media sees us. Social interaction, not very interesting, kind of spot. How we see ourselves. I miss my planet. And if you notice, my favorite book when I was 5 years old was No Man's Valley. And what this book is about is endangered species. And there's a condor named Elliot, and he's looking for a utopia where endangered species can go and not be slaughtered. And having autism, I felt like an endangered species. I felt like I was the only person with it. Alex Planks, when he came up with the whole I Miss My World website, and he felt like he was out of place in this world. But how we really are. There he is, a good doctor, chefs, professionals, parents, working with people. And there's my first book. I'll be selling that for $10. The second one's $15, or 2 for $20. And I didn't have the other picture. The other picture I was going to show was Temple Grandin, and what it says is I'm different, but not less. And what I want you to realize is when you meet people with autism, realize that they're going to be different. They may be flopping their hand. There's a professor, he can testify, they may ask questions that no one else in the world would think of asking, and they may sometimes be inappropriate questions or unusual behavior, but to realize that neurologically, they're wired different. Most people are like bottled water, you shake them up, stir up, not much is happening. I'm more like carbonated Mountain Dew. I get shaken up, stirred up, kaboom. And at times, when you deal with people with autism, whether in the workplace or out in the shopping mall, if you see a kid having an outburst, out of control, it's not necessarily that the mom didn't know how to raise him right. It could be that neurologically, he's wired different, and that the sensation in the supermarket, or the smells in the supermarket, or the noise in the supermarket are more than his brain is able to process. And like a computer that's not working right, it might crash, and that's what's happening during a meltdown, is that crash. And I got time for questions, and I'll be selling copies of my book and autographing. Do you have any questions? Yeah, right there.
You mentioned middle school was especially tough because of the bullying. Do you have any suggestions on how we as parents and grandparents can help our kids who are going through that?
Yeah, and then if they're on the spectrum, have them give a mentor 1 grade ahead, and then with mentors, you have a bigger kid there, it's bully-proofing him from the bully. But if not, keeps eyes out for signs of bullying. I have, in my book, I have a whole chapter called Bully Proofing Your Child. It gives 10 different ways to know if they're being bullied. You notice that they're having scratches or bruises on them, it's a good sign they're being bullied. If they come back and they're missing something that belongs to them, it's a good sign they're being bullied. Or if they like going to school and all of a sudden now they don't want to go to school at all and they're in middle school, it's a good chance they're being bullied. So kind of be aware of what's going on in the child's life, and then you'll be able to know if they're being bullied. And also ask their friends, like, how are things going with them? Oh, he's having trouble with this kid. And then you go to the principals or you go to the teachers, and then nowadays in school there's zero tolerance for bullying. Especially because if people are bullied, they don't know how they're going to, even in typical, how they're going to react. We see a lot of these different school incidences, and then every single one almost, the person was being bullied. So schools have zero tolerance for the bully, but they also have zero tolerance for the people who make threats too. So you got to watch it.
So we have kind of a unique situation. So our son on the spectrum, his friends are also either on the spectrum or other special needs, and they're currently bullying him. And it's a very difficult situation because they don't quite get necessarily what they're doing. And so it's a struggle for us to have a conversation with the parents as well, because have you had a situation like that and a suggestion?
Yeah, that's very common. A lot of times I speak every year at Holly High. They have the 1,200 students. They have a huge autism program, and they say one of the most common things they have is that since autism is spectrum, different people on the spectrum will pick on people who they feel are either higher or lower on the spectrum than them. And also, they'll do it by grades and stuff like that. But what I'd suggest there is that talk to school, talk to parents, try and figure out what's making them do this and how to prevent it from happening. And also have someone come in and talk on bullying. Okay? Share how hurtful it is and how it affects people later on. And talk to the kids one-to-one on how do you feel when you're picked on. How would you feel if this was happening to you? And autism we're great at mimicking what we see. So the kids bullying your son, they were bullied, and they're just mimicking the same thing that they saw, and probably using the same words, the same actions, the same ideas when bullying him, or what was said about them. And they're trying to take that hurt and pain that they felt and project it on someone else, so then they feel better about themselves, because now they're like that person who was bullied, who seemed to be popular, and was doing it because they had a low self-esteem. So I think that's the key, is education on bullying, but also to work with the families and actually talk to the kid one-on-one, so they understand why it's inappropriate behavior. Any other questions?
I'm wondering if there are tools you use today that you might have learned in like high school, college, that help you stay organized, or are you doing anything different?
Yeah, I'm much more organized. I have my own way of, with computers, it helps a lot, because then I can keep track of everything I gotta do. I have a whole file thing like this for whenever I'm speaking to someone. I print out the where I'm speaking, the directions of where I'm speaking. I put them in little plastic things, and once I'm done, I can put it down here to a place I spoke, and I have a whole files on where I've spoken, what date I have, so then I can look over those and then know, well, it's 2 years ago I spoke here, I know I can probably speak here again now, and then, so I have it all organized, all the places I spoke, all the places I'm working on speaking. I keep notes on, because a lot of places you'll contact me. Right now, we're filled till the New Year's. This is when we make our calendar. So like a week or so before they're gonna make their calendar, you can contact them and then set that up. And with autism, we need to be organized, or a lot of times we're not able to get things done that need to be done.
I'm thinking about students that I work with, and I'm wondering if there are things that you would tell like high school students now, like, here's a good tool that you should try to use. Or
Yeah, computers, that's what I'd say.
technology.
Yeah, and internships. Internships are key because without gaining those skills, you can be the most genius person, but without people skills, you're not going to be able to be employed. And there's a guy I met, his mom, when I was in Toledo speaking last week, and her son had a master's degree in engineering, but he's not working because he can't get past the gatekeeper in the interview. So if he would have done it, when he did internships where they went wrong, they had him do them with college. So he wasn't out in the public, he was in an area that was already a bubble. So if he could have done it outside the university, then they're gonna work on it, then internships equal jobs, and then after a while, when you're working in that environment, all of a sudden, like I talked about, the refining takes place. It's iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another man. When you start working with people, you start realizing what works, what doesn't work, what offends people, and after a while, you start picking up those social norms, even though it's not intuitive with most people, you start picking those up and at least acting more where you're able to work. In engineering, you don't need a lot of hands-on experience in the sense of with people. It's more hands-on experience with designing, computers, and those areas, but you still need to get past the gatekeeper. Yeah, Becky?
How would you find the community college participating in this program?
I think what they need to do is more internships, more computer. You'll get these V116 visas. We have people coming from India, getting jobs here. Every one of those jobs, we could have someone with high functioning autism do. And you think about people from a different culture, they also lack those social norms. And why are we giving them a break when they don't understand the American social norms, when we have people with disabilities and then we're not getting them the same opportunities? And why are we not filling those places where we got those visas with people here with disabilities who can do the job probably better than they can? In fact, we found that people with autism are much more creative. We find that a lot of these other countries, that they don't have as much creativity with engineering and architect because they're taught one way to do it, and that's the only way. Where engineering, to be successful, you have to know beyond the book work, but how to be able to think and design things that may not follow the norm of the situation. With autism, they're great at attention to detail and picking up things in that area. And if they're interested in computer, which we find that about 60% of people with autism are highly interested in computers, then we can fill those spots. And it also makes our Social Security goes up because you don't have them living out Social Security in a group home. And also, you don't have other baggage of expenses that come from importing people to take those jobs. And you have people happily working, you don't miss work in the autism community. So community college needs more computer classes, more hands-on, and make it more that they accommodate. So if they're bad at math or bad at English, they can take the class in the area they're good at. And then, because in autism you have mountains and you have valleys. Those mountains you can get higher and you can employ. Those valleys you can't do anything with. You can make them a little higher, but they're still always going to be valleys. So everyone who knows anything about autism will tell you focus in on the strengths rather than weaknesses, which is counterintuitive to special ed. You think you got to focus in on weakness and make them strong, but in autism, they're never going to become strong. That's what we found.
Okay. All right. Ron, thank you very much. Okay, and I would like to invite you all back next Sunday. Pastor Vicky's going to be here talking about her book, My Guy in the Sky. So go over there and say hi to her.
Okay. Thanks so much.